Hey there, my fellow designers and creatives. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another video in the LottieFiles course for designers. In this video, we're going to learn a little bit about animating in After Effects. Now, before I get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video if you haven't done already. Now, if you haven't checked out the previous video on how I imported assets from Illustrator and Figma, make sure to check that out. Link will be down below in the description. And in this video, I'm going to show you basically some tips and tricks on what you need to consider when animating in After Effects. Now, obviously, I made this animation here in After Effects by importing the layers from Figma. And I'm not going to show you how to animate this because it can be a very long tutorial. But more importantly, I'm here to basically show you how to animate, what things to consider, what are mistakes that people often make when animating in After Effects. Now, there are a couple of things that to keep in mind. Now here I am on one of Lottie's website where it basically shows you how to install the LottieFiles plugin for After Effects. I'm going to get into the LottieFiles plugin part a little bit later. But once you come on this website and you can come all the way to the bottom, and over here you can see something called as supported features, right? And if I click on show all, you can see that we have a bunch of After Effects features. Now, a couple of things to understand here is that we have Android, we have iOS, and then we have Windows, and then we have a web. Okay. Now, iOS and macOS and iPadOS, they pretty much are the same platform. They use probably the almost similar code base. So anything that works on, your iPhone is probably going to work on your Mac as well. And then you have Android phones, and then you have Windows applications, and then you have websites, right? Now, what you see over here are basically various different types of properties that After Effects has, and on which platform does that particular effect support. So what that means is every time you are animating something in After Effects, you want to go ahead and check if that is actually compatible on this particular platform that you're designing for. Now, whatever you're designing, you need to know whether are you designing for web, are you designing for app, are you designing for both, are you designing for a Windows application? It could be anything, right? But you want to come over here and see. So first we have a bunch of shapes over here, which is basically shape ellipse, rectangle, rounded rectangle, polystar, all of these things. Okay. You even have trim paths, print paths. We're going to cover that in the next video. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Now, the great thing is that most of these are supported on all the 4 platforms that you can see over here. But in some cases, Windows usually has less, and sometimes even iOS or Android may have less supported features, but web usually supports a lot of them. Then you have the fill colors, you have your opacity, fill color, radial gradient, and linear gradient. This is very important. A lot of people need to use radial gradient and linear gradient. I'm going to show you a mistake that that a lot of people often make, and I'm going to show you what is the right way to do this. Then you have strokes, which is normal. Transform, obviously transform is very important. Your position, scale, rotation, anchor point, opacity, parenting, all of these, very important, basic stuff. Then you have your keyframe interpolation, which is basically your easing of the keyframes or the animations. All of these are supported on all of the devices, so that's pretty good. Then you have masking. I'm going to get into masking as well in this video and show you a few examples. A lot of these blending modes don't work, as you can see over here, but most of the mask options work, and I'm going to show you how to fix that as well. Now, the thing here to understand is that you have a mask path and then you have a mask opacity. So I'm going to show you what this is. Then you have mattes, which is basically used for masking. It's a technique to mask, and you have alpha matte and then alpha inverted matte, but then the luma mattes don't really work, and that's totally okay. We just need to work with alpha and alpha inverted matte, and alpha inverted matte just doesn't work on Windows, but then the rest of it works on all devices, so that's good. Then you have merge paths. That's totally fine. That's a complex concept. We don't have to get into that. Then you have layer effects. For example, fill, stroke, tint, tritone, all of these don't really work. And I'm going to show you what layer effects are. And then you have text elements. You have glyphs, fonts, all of these things. Most of them don't work on Windows, as you see over here, but a lot of them do. I think text is very common and simple and straightforward. You have all the things like an actual text layer, the transform, the fill, the strokes, the tracking, spacing between the letters, all of these work usually. And then you have expressions. We're going to cover expressions in a separate video, so stick around for that. Images are also supported. Now, images is a very interesting concept that I showed in the first video. Then you have pre-comps, time stretch, time map, and mark. So what does this mean? Now, if I come back to After Effects, and if I come here to the panel that says effects and presets, anything that you add from here is not going to be compatible in Lottie. So any effects and presets that you pull from here is not going to be supported by Lottie Animations, right? So for example, if you want to add a gradient that we saw before, right? Usually the way to add gradients is there are two options. One is a gradient ramp. And if I add this gradient ramp on, let's say I'm just going to turn on one of these layers that you see over here. And if I turn on the gradient ramp and add it over here, you can see this is a gradient. We also have another option called as the 4-color gradient. Maybe I'm just going to type in, whoops. Let me just stop this. Yeah, maybe I'm just going to type in gradient. All right, you have a 4-color gradient. That is also a gradient, right? But we can't add gradients like this. The right way to add gradients, I'm going to turn off this reference layer. If I select the element that we have over here, we have the face, and I'm going to open this up and go to contents. You can come here down over here, and then we have a gradient fill, right? So anything that you want to do with terms of gradients, you want to do that over here. And if you want to add one, you can click on add, and then you can come here and choose the gradient that you want. Okay, and you can customize the gradient as you can see over here. You can even go ahead and choose the type from linear to radial, right? So this is supported by Lottie. Now, in order to create a shape layer, you can come over here to the shape section and you can click to choose whatever shape you want, and all the properties that are there within work. So for example, if you want to create a rounded rectangle, I'm just going to create a rounded rectangle like so. And down over here, you have radiant, the path, you have the stroke, and you also have the gradient fill, right? And if I go down here to the rectangle section, you have the roundness as well. So this is also supported by Lottie. Perfect. Now, most of these shapes that get imported from After Effects, from Figma, right? If I open those up, you can see that if I come here to the path section, this is actually a path, right? And if I go back to the list of supported features and I come back somewhere over here to the top, you can see that we have something called as the mask path over here, right? Basically any path. Now, what this also means is that if I come here to After Effects, let me go ahead and create a new composition altogether, right? Maybe we can do that. I'm going to create a new composition and over here, and I'm going to add a layer, and I'm going to call this main layer. Okay. And I'm going to add, let's say a gradient. So I'm going to come down over here to transform. Oh, actually, this is not a shape layer. So this is just a solid layer. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come over here, click on this. Let's say we want to choose a star tool, and I'm going to go ahead and create a star like this. Okay. So now, as you can see over here, if I just bring this over here, you can see that this is a mask path, right? So this is basically masking my original layer that you see over here. And if I select this mask path and I change it, you can see that this is also changing, which is pretty neat, as you see over here, right? Now this effect is basically this, which is mask path. Okay. And you can also control the mask opacity and stuff. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about over here is the track mattes that we use for masking. Now, what you see over here is, if I give you an example, I'm going to break this down for you. So we have this reflection layer. And if I show this reflection layer, you can see that this is basically the reflection layer. And it's being masked by this thing. So for example, if I just turn off the alpha matte for now, you can see that this reflection layer is going above the face and everything. So we wanted to mask it to a certain area. So what I've done is created this mask layer that you see over here, and I've gotten this from Figma. So here in Figma, I have this separate mask layer that I made, and you can click selection, send selection to After Effects, and I can import it on this comp, right? So then we have this mask layer, and I have this reflection. And what you want to do is you want to come here to the track matte settings. And if you don't see track matte, you can toggle on switches and modes over here. And I'm going to choose alpha matte. And what that does, that sort of masks this over here. And that will work in Lottie as well, right? So that's how you do masking animations. And you can even choose alpha inverted matte if you want to try something else, which basically cuts off the inner side and then exposes the rest that is outside the outline. But obviously in this case, we want alpha matte, right? Now, we also have luma matte and luma inverted matte. They totally do different things. So you can ignore that as of now. But again, luma and luma inverted matte may not be supported on certain places. So for example, if you come here to matte, you can see that luma matte isn't supported anywhere. But then alpha matte is supported on all. But alpha inverted matte is not supported on Windows, right? So basically this is going to be your guide on deciding what is working and what is not. And if when you export your Lottie animation, it doesn't work, it's probably because you did something wrong or you added an effect or some sort of a property that is not supported. Now, if I were to show you some of the keyframes that I've done, I'm just going to press U on my keyboard to show the keyframes. Maybe you want to click on this one actually. Whoops. I'm going to click on the last one. And you can see we have a bunch of keyframes. I'm going to go to the graph editor and select the keyframes. You can see that I've given different types of interpolation for all of this, right? So any type of keyframes or animation is going to work here in After Effects. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment sections down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. And I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye-bye.